Good morning, football fans. It is 10 a.m. on the East Coast, 9 a.m. where I am here in the Central, along with Paulie. It is Monday, September 13th, 2021. We have NFL football, Paulie. Good morning to you.
We do, yeah. Heading into week 2 already. It feels good to be back.
It's like riding a bike. We jump right back on it. Bad beats, injuries, Hail Marys from Florida State on Saturday night. There's tons of football to talk about. Before we get to the games this week, we do have to mention we are brought to you by EliteSportsBetting.com. That's why you get this for free, but also BETCHA. Head over to playbetcha.io or download the app. I was looking this morning. Got tons of good props up there for tonight. Lamar Jackson versus Derek Carr. You can even go over to Mark Andrews and Darren Waller. A little bit of value there on the Waller side. I was checking out. Just parlay some props, make some money. Check the line. You can just do the work. Check around different sports books, see where you can find some value, and pick some things up over there. Make sure you use code ELITE for up to $100 on your first deposit match. And look, for the first timers here, if you're just tuning in, Paulie and I get together every Monday morning. We look ahead to the following week. We're trying to beat the lines here and get some value there. We're not going to have a bet on every single game, but we will talk through every single game. Before we get to that, major takeaways from week 1, Paulie, anything that stood out to you before we get to these games?
No, I thought it was a pretty good NFL product for the first week. A lot of interesting games, a lot of back and forth, some surprises here and there in terms of how teams perform. But, the first couple of weeks of the NFL, we tend to see some overreactions in the betting market based upon, the 1 week sample size, right? And we're seeing it kind of this week, and we'll talk about some of the lines that are already been moving for this week based upon how teams got blown out or blew other teams out this week. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out this week.
And yeah, we were just talking before we went live here. Your process, and for our subscribers over at EliteSportsBetting.com, I've already got a couple of these bets down for this week with some line value. Kind of maybe talk through how you guys figure this out with your models and intuition and getting ahead of these lines.
Yeah, so we have a couple different guys that bet NFL, and everything's on the bet sheet there on EliteSportsBetting.com. But pretty much the way I bet NFL is all my action gets done early. I'll start with look-ahead lines. So books post lines the Thursday ahead of for the following week. So example, this upcoming Thursday, they'll post lines for week 3. A lot of times I'll find 1 or 2 that have a lot of value that will play for that following week. And then the rest of my action will usually come in on Sunday night or Monday morning before the show. So maybe in a normal week, I'll maybe have 4 or 5 plays in total. I think I have 5 so far for this week. 2 of them, which were look-ahead lines from last Thursday. 3 of which I posted last night on the site. Just trying to get ahead of value, ahead of some injury news, or ahead of where we think the market is going to be moving based upon whether we think there is an overreaction on the way they post lines or way we think, the line's going to move based on when money's going to be flowing. We want to get ourselves in the correct spots. Last week when we did this, I was getting bets in early, got in all the teaser bets. I had, 6-point teasers on 3 different games. Got into the Rams was when they were at 7.5, got down to 1.5. That line closed, I think, at 9.5. So you wouldn't have been able to get the teaser below 3 at that point. So that was great. Same thing happened in San Francisco and in Tampa Bay. We were able to get in the teaser leg at either -1 or -1.5. All those games closed around 9 or 9.5, which means that we got 2 points of value on the teaser, which is huge because you're sitting there at a -1 or -1.5 instead of a -3.
And that's how you make money long-term, especially in a market as efficient as the NFL. And you mentioned a couple things we can even talk about here for Thursday night. Giants head to the football team over in Landover, Maryland. Big question marks at the quarterback spot with Fitzpatrick and the injury. They are 4.5-point home favorites, 42.5 on the total. I think you already have a play down on this.
Yeah, I bet this last Thursday, obviously not knowing Fitz was going to get hurt on Sunday, which, people say, oh, why you bet ahead of time? There's a chance for injury on both sides. Daniel Jones could have got hurt too, and this line could have moved massively the other way. We were able to get down on this last Thursday at -3, -102 for Washington. I thought the game at that point with Fitz in it should have been around 7 because you're having the Giants playing at Washington here. They're already banged up as it is, right? You have Saquon not 100%, Galladay, Evan Ingram not 100%. With a offensive line that can't protect the quarterback that well. You just played a Denver game. You're now playing on short rest. Now, sure, Washington's on short rest too, but it's the fact that line's going to be banged up just having to play Denver, one of the most physical teams in football, And guess what? You get to go play the Washington football team next. Probably the other physical football team, just like the Broncos. Giants got smacked by the Broncos this week. This line is 4.5. So we actually got a 1.5 of value, even though Fitzpatrick is not playing this week, right? So I still like the bet here. I make the game about 5.5 with Heineke starting here. I would wait to see if this drops down to 4 before playing it. I don't think you're going to see a ton of movement on this line. It's going to stay between 4 and 5 probably the whole week. But if you're not in yet, I would wait to see if it hits 4 before you're going to bet it, if you didn't get in earlier at 3.
Famous Jameis heads to Carolina here. An all-time weird Jameis Winston stat line, 14 of 20, 148 yards, but 5 touchdowns. The one pick he did throw came back on maybe the softest roughing the passer call of all time, but Saints couldn't have played much better against the Packers. And of course, the Panthers, kind of more of the same, hand it off, throw it to Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, this one I don't really have any action on right now. This line's sitting pretty much right where I'd expected it here. It's going to be interesting to see how Darnold is able to handle against this Saints defense. So this is one, I think, maybe one of the better live spots because you can watch the first couple series, and if the Saints are able to pressure Darnold like they were Aaron Rodgers, I absolutely love the Saints in this game. But if they're not, this could be, a little bit of a tough game, I think, for the Saints on the road in a divisional matchup here.
How about the Rams, who we were talking about pre-show, looked like an absolute wagon heading to Indianapolis. Colts getting 4 points here at home, 47 on the total. And is time of possession going to be an issue for the Rams because they just score so damn quick?
I don't think so. I think it just happened yesterday. It was weird is that there was the 2 blown coverages, right? So the way I kind of call the LA Rams is I call them the NFC Chiefs. Because they're pretty much built like the Kansas City Chiefs, right? You have a gunslinging quarterback who's got a good arm and a high mental acuity and could throw it to all their different, they have a lot of weapons on offense there. Even guys like Van Jefferson popped up yesterday, right? Kind of reminds me of a little bit like a McCole Hardman role at Kansas City, right? They have all these weapons, and sometimes it's not time of possession because you end up getting an 80-yard bomb touchdown, right? But at the same time, they could methodically go down the field. We saw Kansas City do that against the Browns, right, in a couple series where it was 6-7 minutes. The Rams could do the same thing, too, except whenever there's a guy open and he's 50 yards downfield and no one's within 15 yards of him, you got to throw and get a touchdown, right? It's not like the Rams were having problems like going 3 and out or like that. It was they just didn't have time possessions because they scored, which is never really a problem to have.
Whitworth with a crazy scraper, something on his neck. Like
that was weird. Like it looked like he got cut by like a chainsaw in his neck or something like that. It was weird.
This guy bladed prison shank. Let's talk about, speaking of the Browns, Texans at the Browns. Texans obviously got the big win over Jacksonville week 1. Probably says more about Jacksonville than it does about the Texans, but the line doesn't lie here. Browns 11.5 point home favorites here, 48 on the total. This should be the Baker show, no?
Yeah, this is one where I'm going to see if the market bets on the Browns here, and if this goes to – if it hits 13, I'm going to have to be betting on the Texans, as hard as it is for me to say. I make this game 9.5, 10 right now, just based on the Browns. That's a lot of points to cover. I know it's at home, but if you're going to get close to almost 2 touchdowns with it sitting 11.5 now and it gets a little higher, that's a lot of points to cover for a team that once they get up, they just want to kind of – run the ball, and I don't think they're going to blow the Texans out by 40 points here, right? If they get up 10, 14 points, I think they're just going to use Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb a lot and kind of ground and pound and just drain the clock out and kind of leave it a backdoor a little open for Tyrod Taylor, touchdown, go from down 17 to end on 10 or something like that. So I'd be sitting out for now unless we see movement to 13. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say anything under 10, I was firing, but saw the 11.5 and just 3 touchdowns between Chubb and Hunt last week. You're right. Yeah, if they get up, they could just run the ball out. Kind of like a Jets situation where they came back and backdoor and got me a push there late in Carolina. So how about the Bills at the Dolphins? Dolphins 3.5 point dogs here at home, 47.5. Bills obviously coming off the disappointing loss in week 1 to the Steelers. Can they get back on the wagon here?
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting bounce back spot to see if the Bills, because if they're starting 0-2, it's not exactly how they envisioned it, considering based upon the schedule, they're thinking, we should be able to beat Pittsburgh and then go into Miami and, kind of get a good start in the season. And now you're kind of a little bit back against the wall. So I look for them to rebound a little bit here. But 3.5 on the road, though, divisional matchup again. It's something I really don't want to touch. There's plenty of other better spots to use, to use your money this week. So I think this is just kind of a stay away at this point.
Yeah, that Dolphins defense is tough. Held the Pats to just 16 points last week, and they're heading to the Jets this week. 5.5 favorites here. 43 on the total. I believe it's our lowest total of the week, if I'm not mistaken. No, Washington Giants is 42.5. Do we trust Mac Jones as a road favorite, even against the Jets?
That's a lot of points to be, doing here. If this gets to 6, there's a pretty good chance I'm going to end up firing on the Jets. Even though it's going to be one of those, it's going to be like plug your nose bets, right? Like bet +6, just turn your head away from the screen. Don't watch your TV at all, and just hope it cashes. Because that's, once again, you got a divisional matchup. You have a quarterback, Mac Jones, who's kind of in the game manager role for New England, kind of feeling a little bit like a Teddy Bridgewater role, where I think he's just there just to not turn the ball over, just sustain drives, and let's just try to get 20 points every game and let our defense win. On the Jets side of the ball, it's going to be a matter whether they can move the ball or not, right? And they struggled last game against Carolina moving the ball. So this is one where if I have any lean in terms of the game, I think under 43's got a little bit of value. I make it 41.5, but not enough to bet it at this point.
Yeah, one of the few teams to get the 100-yard rusher there, Damian Harris, pops for the triple digits there. Tough game, though. Maybe avoid that one, like Paulie said. Have a look there live. How about the Niners, who looked pretty darn good, and the Eagles? We did see some rookie quarterbacks popping in for a few series here or there. Trey Lance did score a touchdown there, but the Eagles destroyed the Falcons in Atlanta. 3.5-point home dogs, 49 on the total here. Anything for this game?
Yeah, I bet this last night at over
you got me, Paulie?
48.5 -105. It's moved up a little bit. I still would bet it at 49. I wouldn't go any higher though. I make it 51.5. Eagles, very, very good offense, as we see all the points put in the Falcons, and then the Niners went up and down the field on the Lions, and also at the same time, they gave up a lot of points. And I'm sure some of it you might have called garbage time, but even when Detroit started to rally, they couldn't really stop them. And no offense, Detroit's not that good of an offense. You have Jared Goff and a bunch of wide receivers who pretty much should be bagging groceries. So I just, 49, 48.5. I like the over here because I think one of these teams puts up 30 points. I'm not sure which team it's going to be. But, to get to 50 to cash this isn't going to take a lot. You can get a, 28-24 type game, I think, could even catch us as well here.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts looked awesome yesterday. 3 touchdowns there. By the way, all these lines are courtesy of the DraftKings Sportsbook. We're not saying these are the best lines. Make sure you shop around and get the best number possible. Big difference between lines there. How about the Broncos at the Jags? We just talked about how poor they were against the Texans, getting 6 points here at home, 44 on the total. Trevor Lawrence, hit or miss, man. He looks like a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, this is one that's, the Broncos with Teddy Bridgewater just sitting there, kind of what's a game manager role. Simple. Move up and down the field, eat the clock, don't turn it over, let your defense do well. 6 points is a lot of points on the road here. This is one I'm kind of hating on myself because the look-ahead line on Thursday for this game was 2.5. I made the game 4.5, and I almost bet it. If it was 2, I would have bet it, but I did not. And now, of course, the line's at 6, which is, I think, a little bit too much the other way, but not enough to bet. I make the game 4.5, 5 here still. It's kind of sitting in no man's land. I would need a full 7 here on Jacksonville in order to play them in this matchup.
Yeah, if you can guarantee me 3 turnovers from Lawrence like I saw last week, perhaps I'd lay the number, but a bit prickly here. I also don't think they're as terrible as they look, but we'll find out. That's the beauty of this sport. Sunday, we'll know what's going on. How about the Bengals at the Bears? This is one that had me scratching my head here a little bit. We did see some flashes from Justin Fields. Dalton looked solid, pretty much as he usually does. 3-point home favorites here, 45.5 on the total. I like the Bengals side. Am I crazy?
No, this is one I'm waiting for injury news. So Bears get 2 injuries in the offensive line from the Sunday night game, and I haven't yet heard how that's going to be playing out. So we'll see in the injury report this week. But if they're going to have to start, especially I think left tackle having to start, I think their 5th or 6th round draft pick this year, started left tackle. That's not a good recipe to have your blindside protection be a late round rookie, right? So check the injury reports there before making a bet on this game. If they are down a couple offensive linemen, I would probably lean Bengals. But once again, the way that Nagy had the game set up, it was kind of like Pittsburgh Steelers of last year, right? We know our offensive line's garbage. So we're just not going to we're not going to hold the ball for more than like 2.5 seconds so you can't sack us. And that's what Dalton did last night in the game is he just dropped back and 1-2 fire, 1-2 fire. And just kind of made the quick 8-yard passes like Big Ben did for Pittsburgh all of last year. And I think that's something that they could probably get away with here against Cincinnati again. So this is going to be a kind of a big unknown. I can see either team winning this game by double digits. So probably going to be a stay away for me.
Probably stay away. And look, we do have the Raiders playing tonight. They are at the Steelers, -649. Typically a game we don't spend too much time on because we don't know what's going to happen tonight. Any major value on this line anywhere to make you fire? Or are we going to wait and see?
Nothing. I make this game 5 right now without seeing how the Raiders are going to play. Obviously, Raiders are going to be a little bit shorter rest, but I'm not fully bought in on the Steelers here. This line was like 4.5, 5 in the look-ahead line, so they added a point and a half after the Steelers beat the Bills. I'm just not fully sold that Pitt is going to be as good of a team this year as they were last year.
Are the Falcons as bad as they looked last week? Big hole there with Julio Jones. Is Ridley a number 1 wide receiver and more of a really good number 2? They are 12-point dogs here heading to Tampa Bay. 52.5 on the total. What do you got?
Yeah, I actually bet the Falcons here at +13. You got 13s up in about half the market right now. It's between 12 and 13 where you look. So you can look at different places and you'll find a 13 somewhere out there. If not, you can probably wait for it. Because I don't think you're going to get a ton of money on the Falcons here. To start, public's going to be betting the Bucs because they just saw the Falcons get destroyed, and everyone likes betting on Tom Brady. This is just too many points. If we look at the look-ahead line, which from Thursday, and then it reposted on Friday again after the Bucs beat the Cowboys, right? That was sitting at -8. So you're telling me this line moved 4 points because the Falcons lost to the Eagles in a game where it was pretty much tied just before half. And then it kind of got away from them, right? But this is a lot of points to be giving in a divisional matchup here. I understand Tampa Bay's a really good team and loaded, but when you're starting to give almost 2 touchdowns to a team who actually has a good quarterback and has some weapons, it's not like this is, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Houston Texans, Detroit Lions world. But the Falcons are going to be an actually okay team. They're probably going to be, a 6-11, 7-10 type team this year. But you start talking getting 13 points. What the Falcons have to do, score 20 points in this matchup to cover 18, 20 points. That's not crazy, even against this Tampa defense. We just saw Dallas be able to move it up and down the field against Tampa, and I think Matt Ryan can probably do similar things with some of their weapons like Ridley.
Yeah, especially with just like scripted plays. I know they drove right down the field. First drive against the Eagles there, had to settle for a field goal. And we got a question in the chat here. Yep. Philly Steve pops up. Any chance you can give a brief synopsis of what you're looking for when you make these games early? We touched on it early at the beginning of the show, Paulie, but maybe 30 seconds on how you make these games.
Yeah, so I pretty much have power ratings for every single team in the NFL. And then every time they play, I go ahead and adjust those ratings. And then you look at the matchups between the teams, seeing what each team's strengths and weaknesses are. So example, let's say in the Bears game last night against the Rams, we knew going into it that the Bears offensive line was going to be an issue and their secondary was going to be an issue. And the Rams happened to be a perfect match to exploit that because the Rams had a really good defensive line that would have an edge against Bears O-line. And the same thing, you have a quarterback with weapons who could exploit the Bears secondary. And that's where they got those big passes. So you want to see where there's going to be mismatches on the field. And it helps you try to figure out and shape your number. So I'll go ahead, get a raw number based upon my power ratings, and then adjust from there based upon injuries, certain matchups, rest advantages, whether teams are on short rest, like we talked about the Giants game being on Thursday night. Now, sure, they have the same amount of rest as Washington, but they're a team that's already more banged up than Washington. So you have to kind of downgrade them a little bit because most of their top players their top running back, top receiver, and top tight end are all going to be questionable for Thursday. So you're going to have to downgrade them probably about a point because of that.
And then, obviously the spread is where you're looking for the value. So appreciate the question in the chat there, Philly Steve. Let's talk about another 4 p.m. game here. Vikings head to the Cardinals. Cardinals 3.5-point favorites, 51 on the total. I guess the question is the experiment finally working off? Kyler Murray looked pretty damn good. Is it going to continue here at home against the Vikes?
Yeah, I played the -3.5 here for Arizona. I make this game 6. Vikings on the road are not a good football team. We just saw them pretty much get minced to pieces by Cincinnati. Cincinnati obviously won in overtime, but Cincinnati's not a great football team. Cincinnati's going to be, a 5-12, 6-11 type team this year. Minnesota has some weapons, but I just think that their linebacking and secondary is going to get absolutely torn to shred by Kyler Murray here, because the Cardinals have plenty of weapons here, and I don't know how Kirk Cousins is going to be able to keep up and, in order for the Vikings to stay in this game, they're going to have to score 24, 27 points. I don't see how that's going to be happening. I think this is kind of a game you're going to see probably one of these, 31-21 type games here.
Yeah, they tried to get that running game going. Never really got off the mark. Just 3 yards to carry. Dalvin Cook did get in the end zone. If you can't run on this Bengals defense, you may have some issues. How about them Cowboys heading to L.A. and the Chargers 2.5-point home favorites here, 52.5 on the total. I was actually surprised to see how well Dak threw it. A couple poor throws early, underthrew. I think it was CeeDee Lamb early, but are we feeling good about Dak's arm and this Cowboys team heading out west?
Yeah, this is going to be a good matchup. I make the number 2, so it's right on the spread. I have a slight lean to the under. I make it 51, but not enough of an edge to fire here. It's going to be interesting to see how, Chargers coaching staff approaches, now that we have one full game film for each team here, to see how they're going to, try to stop the Cowboys, because they got plenty of weapons on the outside, and they just didn't run the ball against Tampa. I think they would probably try to run the ball a little bit more against the Chargers here, and you use pass a little bit less. But the only thing is the Cowboys, you have offensive linemen, one of their top offensive linemen, I think La'el Collins, is out here. So it's going to be interesting to see how that affects whether the run game or the pass production as well.
Titans head to Seattle. 6-point home favorites here, 52.5 on the total. Russell Wilson off to a hot start. The Titans. We just talked about how good that Cardinals offense looked. It was the Titans defense they were scoring all them points on. Looking at the total in the line here, it looks like another shootout. Yeah,
it looks like a shootout here as well. I mean, it's kind of what Seattle did in the first half against Indy, right? Russell Wilson, they had 3 touchdown passes.
3 touchdowns,
Russ cook, right? Just kind of with the new offensive scheme there, and then just kind of in the second half, just kind of slowed it down a little bit, ran some clock a little bit, and just got the victory, right? And I think that you kind of see the same thing here. So if you do want to bet side or total, I would look at the first half here for Seattle, because you're probably going to be able to get a -3.5 for the first half. Probably going to see about a 27.5 for the first half total. I have slight edges on both of those, so we'll see when the first half lines post later in the week to bet that, because I might go first half over here, because it's going to be not crazy to see 28 or more points in the first half of this game. I'm just afraid you're going to see the same thing happen in the Titans game. Is the fourth quarter they had no points in the Cardinals-Titans game, right?
Yeah.
And similarly in the Seahawks in Colts game, right, there was not much scoring in the second half. And I'm afraid at 52.5, you're going to see the same thing here. You might get 35 points in the first half, and then they end up on, 51 points or something like that.
Yeah, we'll see a little more desperation from these teams as we get further along in the season. They're playing a little catch-up here. But Sunday night, we do have the Ravens playing tonight. I think this is maybe the game of the week for me. 55 on the total. Chiefs going on the road here. Ravens getting 3 points at home. We'll see how they look tonight, but should be a hell of a game.
Yep, so this is one I actually bet last Thursday. I bet it Kansas City -1, -110. So we already got 2 points of value there. I expect this line to move a little bit more. I think this line moves to 3.5. I think the Ravens probably will win tonight over Vegas, but it'll still be a close game. And I think you're going to have a lot of the public be betting on the Chiefs here, as what we normally see. It's kind of the chase game. Guys will be betting the early games, the late games, and then they're like, okay, I'm down. I need to double to get even, or I'm up and I want to really, get a bunch of money. What do? They typically bet the favorite. So we usually see movement for Sunday Night Football, about a point extra movement on the line within about an hour before the game goes off. So if you're going to want to bet Chiefs, I still don't mind betting it at 3 here. I make the line 4.5. If you're going to want to back the Ravens this matchup, you can just wait until right before kickoff because you'll probably get a +4 on that line right before kick.
Major difference between 3 and 4 there.
Yep.
Interesting to see what the Ravens have, if anything, from the run game. Lamar typically likes to use those running backs as a little bit of a distraction to take off and design runs and, of course, scramble out of the pocket as well. Huge game there out in LA or at Las Vegas tonight. How about the Monday night football game? Man, I was hoping this is another game I was hoping to be under 10 points here, Paulie, because there is no chance in hell the Packers are as horrible as they looked yesterday, I guess it was. Certainly looked like preseason game 4 for the Packers. They are 10.5-point favorites here against the Lions, 49.5 on the total. Where do you have this game?
Yeah, I have a slight edge in the Packers here in this game. I think the best way to exploit this game is going to be taking the first half bet. Typically we'll see Wednesday or Thursday the first half's posted. Usually when a line is 10.5, the total of 9.5, we'll get a first half line of -6, which anything under a touchdown for the Packers the first half would be a bet for me, whether it's 6 or 6.5. I think this is one where it's kind of a good buy low spot for the Packers, playing at home here with Rodgers. And Rodgers has absolutely murdered the Lions in his career, and I think this is in a really good spot. This line's a little bit lower than we expected because they kind of rallied against San Fran. If they would have continued getting blown out by San Fran, this number probably would have been 11.5, 12, and that first half number probably would have been 7 or 7.5. So I'm going to take advantage of the fact that the Lions rallied. Packers, that was a one game kind of people are going to be overreacting here a little bit, and let's lock in a 6 or 6.5 for the first half of the Packers here.
Yeah, 31-10 at halftime. You tell me Jared Goff's going to throw 57 times. I'll take the other side. So there you go. There's our week 2 preview. Hopefully you guys got some good education from Paulie on how he looks at these games and tries to beat these numbers. And, of course, threw a few bets in there as well. If you haven't yet, make sure you download BETCHA, code ELITE for up to a $100 first deposit match over there. Any final words before we let the folks get on with their Monday morning, Mr. Paulie?
No, we'll have another show on Thursday afternoon with a bunch of us walking through the NFL picks as well. They're giving more insight, talking about some of the injuries, and you'll hear us from some of the other analysts there at Elite Sports Betting in terms of their thoughts on all the games.
There you go. If you haven't yet, make sure you follow Paulie at Fried Egg Paulie over there on Twitter. Did a nice Q&A on Sunday before kickoff there. For folks who aren't subscribers over at EliteSportsBetting.com. But that's the way to go. A lot of these plays are already in the bet pack. Like you said, we're already getting a couple points value on a couple different games there. So much appreciated, Paulie. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you haven't yet, make sure you follow Elite Wins. That's where these babies will be showing up. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, like, share with all your friends. And over on Twitch, appreciate you guys tuning in as well. We'll be back next Monday. We'll see Paulie and the rest of the guys later in the week for EliteSportsBetting.com. I am Duke. Good morning and adios.